Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gaming Mix podcast, your official podcast from analogstickgaming.com. If you don't know me, my name is Jordan, and to my right, as always, is my fellow co owner and founder of Analog Stick Gaming, Jeff. How are you, Jeff?
Yeah, doing pretty good. It's my day off in lieu of the holiday, so nice 3 day weekend. So
Nice. And we are, as you can probably tell from the image behind us, we're going to talk about Death Stranding 2 on the beach today. This is going to be somewhat of a shorter episode because of that, because you haven't seen it yet, but we also did record an episode with our good friend MBZ recently talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, so you'll also see that episode this week. I've been a little bit offline for a while due to some personal issues, but I'm just getting back into things. So, yeah, while I've been offline, I've been playing this game, Death Stranding 2, and we're going to talk about that a bit later because I've also been doing a few other things, and I believe Jeff, me, and you both watched some wrestling over the weekend, so should we talk about it?
yeah, it was an okay pay-per-view. It was also kind of weird. Like I kind of wish it just would have been a King of the Ring PLE, because there really wasn't many champions. So yeah, it was Night of Champions. So we saw a few matches. They kind of oddly opened up with what is it? Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. Um, wasn't too bad of a match actually. It was pretty decent.
It was
I
good,
think it
yeah, I
could have
enjoyed
gone.
that match.
I think it could have gone either way. The only reason that I would want Randy to win is because he got screwed out of King of the Ring last year. So that would have been nice, but I still think that for some reason that the title shot that Cody's going to get against Cena, I think Randy Orton's going to work his way in there, and I think it's going to be a triple threat. I could see that happening, but it wasn't too bad of a match. Um, we also had Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley. Um, I'll be honest, I have not been a fan of Raquel ever since she came back and kind of joined up with Liv. I feel that she hasn't kind of fought to her potential.
Yeah, something
Um,
something is not quite the same about Raquel, and I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is or what has happened there. But I agree with you. Since she came back and has kind of connected up with Liv and the Judgment Day and all this stuff's been going on, it just doesn't feel right. It almost feels like she should be off on her own. She should be doing her own thing.
Yeah, because she did pretty good. I mean, they even had like Roxanne come out, and everybody got the black latex memo. It was really hard to tell them apart half the time. Like I've seen the meme online of like the two cat women like pointing back and forth at each other. Um, but no, I mean, this is gonna definitely suck for Royal Rumble next year because everybody's going to be wearing these like full body suits and stuff, and Um, but Rhea Ripley won. I mean, I think everybody was kind of expecting that. You don't have somebody who's gunning for the title to lose to someone that's like not even in the running for the title. We also had this. This is the one that kind of sucks. We had Sami Zayn versus Karrion Cross. Now, Karrion Cross has done wonders to kind of get back into the limelight. This is his first PLE in like 3 years.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and he was brought in. I mean, this match obviously was made because of the fact that Dom's ribs are hurt right now, so he wasn't
Yeah.
able to take on AJ Styles for the title. So Karrion Cross was brought in to fight Sami Zayn. This is a match that kind of feels like it was perfect for like SmackDown or something. Um, this match was great to see Karrion kind of get his due. However, they brought back the old like Hogan era three drop on the arm. Yet Jay just a couple weeks ago lost it with one arm drop.
Yeah.
So there's no consistency here in kind of like the rules. And so Sammy wanted to do the Hogan thing, um,
Yes,
and
it was weird
Arian
because I agree with you. Like, if you're gonna do that, that's fine because that
make it
spot
consistent.
does add drama, but make it consistent. Have it be consistent.
Yeah,
So that was weird. That was weird.
and Carrion took a loss, which sucks. But
The
I mean,
thing
the thing
is,
about
it
it
does
is,
suck, but it's a hard one, right? Because at the same time, it still puts his character more in the spotlight, and like you
yeah,
said, for
it's a win no matter what,
yeah,
really, for Carrion, because I mean, he's been pushing merchandise really good. I guess he got in trouble for that viral moment that he made. But still, like, this guy is getting over outside of WWE in
yeah,
huge ways. And I mean, like, when
yeah,
he was part of his little crew, I could care less for him.
yeah,
And now that he's on his own with Scarlett, I've
yeah.
suddenly like really,
And
really into him.
the funny thing is, his character works as well because
Yeah.
I've been saying to people, I actually think there's a strong argument to be made that Karrion Cross isn't really a bad guy. I actually think, in a weird way, I think he's the ultimate good guy. In a weird way, like
Yeah. No, he's
because
been he's
be,
been excellent.
because his entire character is essentially about exposing these people for lying and not being truthful about who they are,
Yeah.
right? And
Although, like, one of the reasons why I think that WWE could be pulling him or keeping him off TV and stuff is that's kind of the same thing they have going with Rusev.
yeah, kind of, yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
It is a
either way,
shame,
it's nice
and
to see him on
I
here.
guess the one part that's a shame of it is that anyone who ever fights Sammy at any of these Saudi shows is going to lose. Like, because there's no way that they're ever going to let Sammy lose a match there, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's just never going to happen. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand that. I completely understand why it's so important and having that it's kind of, obviously it's not his hometown, but it's the same effect of the hometown hero kind of thing, because Sammy being a Muslim represents a lot of that audience and that region of the
Yeah.
world. So therefore they feel representation through him, right? And yeah,
Makes me worried
but
for the Rumble then.
yeah, yeah, I know
I
what
don't
you
want
mean.
Sammy winning the Rumble.
You don't? Oh,
No.
interesting. Okay.
I don't think he's a good champ. I think he's like a decent on his own and stuff, but like when he had the belt that he took from Gunther, he did nothing with it other than fight Gable.
True. True.
Like
That's a good
his
point.
run was awful.
That's a good. I agree with you. I also think it's a weird one, right? Because a lot of a championship run comes down to the booking, and ultimately, the booking is not something that the wrestlers themselves have
No.
that much control over.
But even then, like Gunther had horrible booking after he lost the belt. Like they
Yeah.
basically put him up against a bunch of nobodies. Because like Gunther, every when he even had that title, and now when he has it, like he hasn't fought anybody with a credible name.
Yeah.
Goldberg is going to be the first person that he's fought that's going to have any name attached to him.
Yeah, like a
It's
real
like,
credible name, and also because of the
yeah,
position Goldberg's in, you know that Gunther is going to beat Goldberg. Like we're all expecting it to be Goldberg's final match, and all these kind of things. So it's, yeah, I agree with
I
you.
mean,
I completely
Goldberg could
understand what you're
win
saying.
and then relinquish the belt into a tournament because Triple H loves tournaments.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Or because the reaction to Goldberg this time around has actually been quite positive, and he doesn't always get a positive reaction when he's come
Yeah,
around in the past. There is a chance that they could let him win it, and then maybe he just loses it at SummerSlam, because SummerSlam isn't that far away, and and
Yeah,
they're
but I mean, they did confirm that's his last match. So I
yeah,
mean, you could have a tournament with everybody at SummerSlam, like who's not involved in a match or who
that's
is
true.
even still involved, and that's a night two thing.
That's true. Yeah, because they're doing the 2 night SummerSlam for the first time, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Next
we
match
obviously had a few
was
more matches at the show this weekend.
yeah, we had Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. I didn't think they were actually going to take the belt off Jacob. I thought Jimmy was going to come in and kind of like
Yeah, so
help him
that's
get the
what I was
win.
expecting as well. Watching it when the others came in, and then obviously you
Yeah, because
had
they were building up the Jimmy
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So it does surprise me, but then I guess it kind of gives them a way to make Jacob a real good guy now. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
he won the belt as a bad guy, and him turning on Solo, yeah, that kind of makes him good, but it doesn't really make him a good guy. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now,
yeah,
having him having to kind of fight against the odds and probably get the help of Jimmy along the way and maybe a couple of other people, it's a way for them to establish him as a good guy within the universe and kind of build him up again, but build him up on his own, rather than just him being this monster freak athlete kind of thing. It almost gives them
yeah.
a chance to give him a bit more of a character. So, in a weird way, I actually think it's the right choice, and I think it's a good choice for Solo as well, because I think he's been languishing a little bit in kind of obscurity to a certain extent, where he's there but no one has really cared about him that much for several months now, whereas putting the belt
Yeah,
on
it's like it
him,
makes you wonder why everybody's following him in the first place.
yeah, whereas putting the belt on him now makes that immediately more interesting, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that story going forward. But I would say, yeah, in the moment, I was definitely surprised that they made that choice.
We had Jade Cargill take the win over Asuka for the Queen of the Ring. I think Jade was like kind of denied of it last time, like she was kind of
Yes,
taken out of it that early there. So it's nice for Jade to kind of get the recognition. She just needs to work on her mic skills.
and I will
Um,
say, in terms of in-ring stuff, and this is definitely partly down to Asuka, of course it is, but this seemed to be the best match that Jade had in quite some time. Like, she was pulling out the counters and she was doing a few things that we don't normally see her do. And I think it shows that she clearly is improving those in ring skills, because we know that she does make a mistake occasionally and she does,
yeah,
things go wrong. But also, I think people forget that actually she is quite a young, lesser experienced wrestler. So she is
mm,
still learning, and I think that each time I see her wrestle, you can see that she is getting better with the in ring stuff. But I do agree
yeah,
that the on the mic stuff, she almost needs to learn how to be a bit more imposing, because for her build and her stature and the way that she wrestles in the ring, she needs to have like an imposing presence outside of the actual action in the ring, and so far on the mic she doesn't have that. So they definitely need to work on that.
yeah. And breaking the tradition of the five card matches, we have a sixth match, and that was CM Punk versus John Cena. This match was basically a free for all at the end with
Yeah.
everybody coming in, even Penta
However,
coming
I
in
will
and doing his
say,
thing.
I genuinely loved this match. I thought it was
Yeah, it
really
was really
good.
good. Yeah,
Like,
it was excellent. I mean, you even had like a possible cash in as well too, and
yeah. Like,
no, it
I'm
worked
not
well.
joking when I say this match felt worthy of a much bigger event, and that's not me trying to downplay what these Saudi events are because they're big and they are important for the company. But this genuinely felt like it could have been the payoff to a much bigger kind of storyline and event. Like, this is the best I've seen Punk in the ring for quite some time. This is the best I've seen Cena in the ring for quite some time. That they were pulling out each other's moves. There was genuinely a moment in this match where I was like, "Oh, is Punk actually gonna win this?" Because it kept
Yeah.
going and it kept going, and every time you thought, "Oh, it's over, Cena's won it," Punk would kick out. Then you had obviously all of Rollins' guys come down and
Mhm.
the potential cash in happened. Cena flattened Charles Robinson as he ran down to the
Oh
ring.
god, I've seen so many memes of like the dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun. Yeah,
So it was like
and
it.
he even tweeted after that whole match. He's like, "I am alive." So,
But yeah,
but no, it
like
was pretty good, and yeah,
it
like
was
they
really
make
good.
a shit ton of money going down there.
Yeah, it was a really good match. Obviously, we now know that Cody is going to fight Cena at SummerSlam because he
Yeah,
won the King of
I
the
still
Ring.
don't think it's gonna be a one-on-one.
No, I don't. I don't either.
I think honestly, you could put Orton and uh, CM Punk in there, and it'll be like a
Yeah.
four-man type of thing.
Yeah, there it's going to be interesting to see what they do because at the moment the story for Cena seems to have been that he doesn't want to face Cody again. You know? It's almost like he's trying to find ways to avoid facing Cody again, but I find it
Yeah,
interesting with Cody that they have started to kind of sow the seeds that maybe Cody isn't the White Knight everybody thinks he is. You know, maybe he is gonna turn a little bit. Like you look at that match against Orton. Orton was the one that was it. That was really good storytelling, because Orton was the one that was having hesitation and holding back because he didn't want to hurt his friend, whereas Cody was being very aggressive and very, and it almost looked like he was willing to bend the rules to win if that's what it took. And I find it interesting that they are sort of sowing those seeds that maybe Cody isn't as good as we think. And I'm gonna be interested to see what they do there because are they gonna turn? There's been a lot of speculation about there's another man for whatever this thing is the Rock's doing, right? And I just wonder, is the twist in that story gonna be that that other man ends up being Cody? You know, it's I don't know how they would get there or how they do it, but
I don't know. I don't think The Rock even knows what he's doing,
no, I don't half the time. I
honestly.
think he's just like, oh, I want to show up today, and he just figure it
Yeah,
out.
he's like, yeah, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna inject this. I'm like, oh hey, we're gonna make this fourth man, blah blah blah, and it's like, oh dear lord.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird. But having said that, really good show over the weekend. I did enjoy it, and I don't always enjoy these Saudi shows. I think sometimes they can be a little bit like pointless.
Non-canon.
Yeah, but they're clearly trying to change that with the Royal Rumble being there in January and things like that. I think they're trying to make these shows more important. And this was a good step in that direction. The matches were good here. Nothing outstayed its welcome really, and they were all fun. They all offered something. There is part of me that wished we saw some wrong killings or truth on the show here, but it is what it is. It's okay. I get it. I get it. With that being said, I guess we should now turn to video games. Do we have. Obviously, we don't want this episode to be too long, so before we get to Death Stranding 2, Jeff, is there any kind of pressing news that we've missed that we'd like to talk about?
Well, I've actually got two Death Stranding news articles here, just to kind
Interesting.
of keep us on theme here. Um, Hideo Kojima has stated that he personally added every reference to himself in Death Stranding 2, as his staff pretended they didn't know what he was talking about when asked to add Kojima Easter eggs. Hideo Kojima games are renowned for their self-referential nature, referencing both his past work and the developer himself. His latest release, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, is no exception. Now, in a new interview, Kojima has joked that his staff pretended to not know what he was asking them to do when it comes to Kojima references, so he added them in himself. I put all these things in, Kojima told GameSpark. Even if I said to the staff, please put them in, they would just say, huh? And pretended not to know. Kojima then revealed that he makes a cameo in the night sky in Death Stranding 2 is a constellation. Some people might be a
I
little put
haven't
off.
seen that one yet.
I haven't seen that one either. The one thing I thought was funny is when he actually goes, when the one guy goes something like a missing limb, almost like a phantom pain. I was like,
Yes.
aha.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Hideo Kojima has a long history of making cameo appearances in both games that he has developed and those he has developed by his friends. In the original Death Stranding, Kojima can appear in the player's private room. If the player moves the camera to aim at Sam's bare feet, Kojima will appear, covered in tar. He also appears as a hologram in the game. And he also appears in Cyberpunk 2077 as well, too. So, yeah, it's kind of fun, like the staff going, "What do you mean Easter eggs? I don't understand." And then him just adding all that stuff in. So that's actually pretty neat.
So
Um,
there was an Easter egg, not to Kojima specifically, but to Kojima Productions that you can find. I don't know if you have you read the Moby Dick book yet, Jeff.
I only opened it up and got that photo, which leads to that cutscene.
Yes. And then I've opened it up a couple of times since then just to see what would happen. And one of the
Yeah.
things is Dolman says something or other, and he goes, "It reminds me of Kojima Productions," but he says, "Based on your reaction, Sam, I assume you have no idea who Kojima Productions are." It's just like, it's just, yeah, there's just hilarity. I really like Dolman. We'll speak more about him later. But
Yeah.
yes, what is the
Um,
other news piece that we have concerning?
so this one's kind of interesting. Death Stranding director Hideo Kojima has attempted to explain why he uses few Japanese actors in his games, citing challenges including the language barrier and an alleged difficulty in authentically recreating Asian skin tones. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach was released for PS5 this week, and its predecessor, its cast is predominantly made up of Western actors, including Norman Reedus, Leah Seydoux, and Elle Fanning. The main cast does include one Japanese actor, however, Shiali Kutsuna, who plays the character Rainy. IGN Japan asked Kojima why he chose to cast Kutsuna in the role and why he puts few Japanese actors in his games, despite Kojima Productions being based in Tokyo. We record with other actors in a studio in Los Angeles, so it's a bit of a problem if they don't have native level English skills. I searched for someone who could speak Japanese and also native English, but it was difficult. Katsune grew up in Australia, can speak English, and when I met her, I found her to be a nice person, so we decided to work together. Kojima went on to say that he would like to cast more Japanese actors in his games, but claims that there were technical challenges involved in scanning them into his games compared to other Western actors. It's difficult to make Asians look like their real life counterparts. Women and young people in particular have such beautiful, smooth skin. And Asians, and not just Japanese people, are known for their beautiful, smooth skin, so it ends up looking like CG. On the other hand, it's easier to bring out the details in older people or people with a lot of freckles. I've tried to use Japanese people in the past, but it's hard to make them look like their real life counterparts. However, this time I used new technology and I'm quite satisfied with the results, so we'll do better even next time. So yeah, like Rainey is fantastic. She's
Yeah.
probably my favorite character so far.
Yeah, so let's,
Um,
before we talk about the game, let's preface
yeah,
this by saying there will be some spoilers, because there's no way to talk about this game without some level of spoilers. So if you haven't played yet, please go away and come back when you have. But just to be very clear to people, at least when myself and Jeff last spoke, because we've been speaking somewhat while we've been playing, we're both in episode 6, I believe. I don't know if Jeff's played any more since then, but I'm
No, I'm probably
very
towards the end of episode 6, but yeah.
so I'm more towards the beginning of episode 6, but we'll be talking about anything potentially up until episode 6, which is
Wow, there's
still
17
very early
episodes.
on in the game.
Holy hell. Yeah.
So, first of all, Jeff, what are your top level initial impressions of Death Stranding to itself as a video game?
Um, I mean, surface level, basically, quote on the back of the box. It's more of the same. Like, that's basically what it is. Like, it's a refinement of what's come before. So,
Yeah,
literally, every single facet of this game is an improvement over anything they did in the previous one,
yeah,
from visuals to basically, like, even like the zip line. They even talk about how it's been improved
yeah,
because, like, essentially, like, you start off in Mexico and then you have that little area there to explore. And then you basically go to Australia. And that's
yes.
where kind of it goes right now. If it goes past that, I have no idea. But they should have got Rhea Ripley, I mean, in Australia. Like
Really?
that would have been fantastic. Her shows up in like one of those little things or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you send this like box of dog shit to Dom? He's like down the mountain. Like, great.
So I
But yeah,
completely
like it's
agree. I completely agree, but I also think, I think that saying it's more of the same is true, but is also a little bit reductive to what this game's actually doing, because it is more of the same. And at the end of the day, if you didn't like Death Stranding 1, if you really hated Death Stranding 1, you're not going to like this video game.
no, because like the first 6 episodes so far have been almost like nothing to change that. Like
Yeah.
your first couple missions is basically like your very first thing you do is literally just walking back to your house.
Yes.
Um, and like
Um,
eventually then you get on missions and
yeah.
it's kind of like the
However,
same thing.
However, what I would say is where they have improved this game, as Jeff explained just, is every single one of these things is better. The game looks better, the game, even in the walking, right? Like, walking is more forgiving. Like, you do still have to balance, but you're not
And you do get vehicles
constantly.
and gadgets a lot quicker in
Yeah.
this game than
And
this than the
that's
first
the
one.
one thing I noticed very early on is the pacing is so much better. So if your if the pacing was the issue for you with the first game, the pacing of progress here, not necessarily always the story, because there's definitely some slower moments, but the pacing of actual progression is so much better here. Like, you're unlocking things constantly. You get a vehicle within the first couple of hours. It's
Yeah, like I'm using the truck now. I was using the little tripod thing, whatever, but I'm
yeah.
using like the big like fucking
I've
truck
got
because like you
so
can
I've
put
got a
an
truck.
attachment.
I've got a truck with 6 battery packs on it, and then I've got the thing that pulls in the like.
Yeah, it just grabs shit, whatever, and like I wish it would grab the little crystals on the ground though.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But yeah, so like, oop, got this, oop, got that, and then I've got a gun turret
Yeah.
as well on it as
Yeah,
well.
so do I. Yeah.
Um, like, and I've been building a bunch of roads as well too, which is always the fun thing of like
Yeah.
building with other players
And what I will say,
and
because
that
I
kind of
know
stuff.
that you're playing offline, Jeff, because you don't have PlayStation Plus, right?
You don't need PlayStation Plus for the online stuff.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
No, that's one thing I checked before I bought it, and it says you do not need PlayStation Plus to interact with anything because I've seen roads
Oh,
already
wow.
built and bridges already
Wow,
built.
cool. Yeah, so
Yeah,
what I wanted to say is another improvement with this game is you are playing Death Stranding. You're going around, you're delivering stuff, but the variety of gameplay you can have between that is so improved. Like, in the past, in Death Stranding 1, I would actively avoid any human being enemy ever, because I would just be like, I just
I
don't
just walk
want
up
to.
behind him and like
Yeah.
choke them out and
So the
stuff, or like
stealth is
just get
really good.
headshot.
You've got a lot of options in stealth. Very early on, if you connect with someone well enough, you can get a tranquilizing sniper rifle quite early in the
Yeah, I have to
game.
get the second one.
So that's helpful. You can use your what they call your strand, which is a piece of rope, to basically choke people out as well. So the thing there is really cool. I also like, this is an underrated improvement to the gameplay. You can take off your backpack at any time. So
How do you take off the backpack? Because I've just had to drop shit.
So you hold triangle and it will literally take off the backpack and drop it wherever you
Okay.
are at the time. So what I
I had to
will
go and
often
pick up a
do
guy, and I had to lose all my shit, so I have to go back and back there and pick it
so,
all
so
up.
what I will often do, especially if it's raining, I'll look for one of the timefall shelters, I'll go under there, I'll take off my backpack, leave it under the timefall shelter, then go and clear out a camp, and then I'll come back and get my backpack after to pick all the stuff up. Like, the loop is just much better, and the options that you have. So, like, for example, Jeff, I know you've got to this bit. There's a point in the game. Slight spoiler: you have to rescue a kangaroo. Okay, and you take him to an animal shelter. Who you see at that animal shelter is actually quite cool if you know who they are, and their
I don't.
connection to they are one of the bands that sang a song for the first game, and they also have another song in this game.
Okay, that's why there's three of them there then.
Yes. But if you build up the connection with them, so as you know, if you've played Death Stranding, when you make deliveries to a place, whether those be actual orders or whether you're delivering the lost cargo that you can find out in the world, you'll improve your connection with these different places. And it's basically a star rating. And each time you get a new star, you get a new piece of equipment. I'm up to either 3 or 4 stars on this animal shelter camp.
Nice.
And they've given me a BT hollow grenade. So I can chuck this grenade, it basically shoots out a fake BT, and the enemies get scared and put their head down and they're like cowering away from this thing.
Oh, nice.
It's like, and then you can get a stealth grenade, which you can throw, and it makes like a hologram of a rock or something, and you can actually hide inside of it. You can actually walk into the rock and just sit there and hide. It's just like, so there's lots of different options of the way you can play, right? And Jeff spoke about vehicles earlier. You get basically a trike is the first vehicle you get, and you can ride around on that, and you can actually like pick up. If you ride next to a package or something, Sam can just reach over and pick it up. But what's really cool about being in a vehicle is that. So, do you know early on, Jeff, where you go to. I won't say exactly what happens, but you go to Mexico and then you have to go back to your house again? Like, you've done the connection point and you have to go back to your house at quite some pace for some reason, right? And during the combat encounters you have at that time, I was actually driving around on the trike with my gun out, like shooting these things. Like,
Yeah, I didn't know you could actually shoot on the truck until I accidentally pressed like right on the D-pad, and then
yeah,
it propped up with the gun. And I'm like,
yeah. So I really think that I said this about Death Stranding 1 as well, but I think it's even more so true of Death Stranding 2. The more you put into this game, the more you get out of it. Because you build up those connections, you get better equipment, you get all these different things, and it really can change the way that you play the game. Like, I've unlocked some equipment that I have not used. like never used, right? Like you've still got the bolo gun. Like I
Yeah, I haven't
recent
used that or the shotgun. Mostly just the assault rifle.
I recently got the blood boomerang. I won't
I got
explain
that.
when you get that or why, but that's quite a cool moment in the game. I've got, for example, Jeff mentioned the shotgun there. I actually do quite use the shotgun quite a bit, but that's because you get the shotgun from a person in the game, the musician, right? So you level up your connection with this person, and the reason I use the shotgun a lot is because if you level up that connection to the level 2 shotgun, which I think takes either 2 or 3 stars, this thing obliterates humans, BTs, everything. Like it's genuinely amazing. Amazing weapon. Like speaking of BTs, there's a new type of BT in this video game, which presents a completely new challenge, which I quite like. And those are the Watchers, who can actually physically see you this time around, Jeff. So you can't just sneak around these guys because they'll
Is
literally.
that like the big tall walker guys?
They're the ones with the eyes, so they got like blue eyes, and when they look around,
Okay, I don't know. I don't know if I've just seen those ones.
so when they look around, their eyes will actually shine at you, and then they come at you quite quickly, and
Okay.
you can damage them with blood grenades. Like that's quite, that's the easy way to damage a BT. And here's a trick for you: if you chuck a blood grenade and then shoot any gun through the blood, through the mist of the grenade, those bullets will then do extra damage to that BT because they're getting coated in the blood. Is quite clever in that way. Blood boomerang,
Hmm.
obviously, much later on, is very powerful against BTs. But yeah, so these things, the Watchers, they don't just hear your breath, right? Because you can still hold your breath like you could in the first game and all these kind of things. But they don't just hear your breath, they can see you. So if they see you, they'll start chasing at you, and then they become. If they catch you, they basically become like this bigger BT, which you can then fight off, and you have to shake it
Oh
off
yeah,
of you
those are
and
the guys
things.
that when they find you, it drops tar right at you, and then they come at you, and they have a little like light
Yes,
that you
yeah,
shoot. Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I know those guys. Yeah, it's like the tall little walker guys.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
usually just yeah, you just pump them full of like bullets in that spot, and then
yeah,
they
so
they
you
go down
can,
quick.
but if you get the level 2 shotgun, they take like 3 shots to kill. So they're much easier to deal with. So yeah, I really would recommend, like my biggest tip for people is, because let's be clear, me and Jeff are roughly at the same point in the story, but Jeff actually started playing 2 days after I did. Because I've been spending quite a bit of time building up connections and stuff, because I am our lead reviewer for Death Stranding 2 here. So I kind of wanted to make sure that I was seeing as much of the side content and gear and stuff that you can get. But I really would recommend, at least once you get to Australia, spending a bit of time to level up those connections, because the gear you can get is very helpful. But one thing I don't know whether you would have done it or not, Jeff. In Mexico, which you can go back to later on, there is someone, I believe he's called the Boca, and he gives you a better pair of shoes, and they're
Okay.
like they're much better wearing. They allow Sam to get up steeper hills. So if you haven't got those, they're called the trekking boots, I believe.
Okay, I'll have to check them out because I just unlocked the combat boots, which are good for like kicking and stuff.
Yeah, the trekking boots for traversal while walking are still the best boots I've found at this point in the game.
Okay.
So I would recommend going back and getting those. But yeah, I would say that what has most impressed me so far about Death Stranding 2, outside of the obvious things like the visuals, and I
Oh yeah,
actually,
the environments are fucking gorgeous. Like when they were showing that stuff at the very beginning in that big like cavern thing, I'm like, oh
yeah,
shit, they put some like real footage in there, and then all of a sudden it's like
yeah, just
go play, and I'm like,
gameplay, yeah,
fuck me.
yeah.
I mean, that Decima engine is fantastic. Like,
Yeah,
holy
it's
shit, Gorilla. Like,
genuinely visually amazing game, especially for the
yeah.
size of it. Like, this is visually an
Even on a like, I'm
outstanding
playing
game.
on a base PS5. Like, you're playing on
Yeah.
the Pro,
I
obviously.
am, yes, yeah. So I'm playing on the
Yeah.
Pro. I'm actually playing in performance mode, and it's rock solid 60 FPS. The reason I chose the performance mode on the PS5 Pro is thank you to Digital Foundry for the advice. They basically said that the quality mode is slightly higher resolution, but other than that, the performance mode specifically on the Pro is actually not that different in terms of resolution, and you're getting double the frame rate. So I'm playing at 60 FPS. But what I would say is if you're on a base PS5, with how good this video game looks, and with the pace of the gameplay and things, I would probably recommend quality mode. Because this is an amazing looking video
Well,
game.
this one says if you're playing on a base PS5, choose the performance mode. You get a largely rock solid 60 FPS through the entire experience, but will come at the cost of some visual fidelity. If
Yeah.
playing in quality mode, the frame rate will be dropped to 30 FPS, but the visual fidelity is noticeably better in most scenes.
Yes, yeah. So that's what I understand about so the visual change between performance and quality mode is more noticeable on the base PS5, and therefore I think the quality mode is a better choice there from what I've been told and from what I've seen of other players. But
Yeah, I'm
if
playing
you're
on
on
performance mode right now.
but if you're on the PS5 Pro, definitely performance mode is the way to go. I want to talk about. So, obviously, yeah, there's some obvious things that are definitely amazing about this game, right? Visuals. I actually think the character performances are really good. I I think the writing for Kojima so far is actually very strong. I think it's very, very good, and there have been moments in this game where even I'm like, wow, that's deep. like it's yeah, Kojima's doing a good job here in terms of the writing, and obviously I can't talk about it as a whole yet, but I have seen some reviewers such as Gene Park and other people say that in terms of writing, this is probably Kojima's best writing in a video game. So,
Yeah, the only problem I have with the writing is actually some of the absence of certain things. Like
mhm.
there are moments where you were expecting Norman Reedus to reply to someone and he just fucking doesn't.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that because I picked up on it a
And I
few
kind of wish he would
times.
ask the when you're talking to somebody after doing the Cupid and thing and stuff like that,
Mm.
and then you have the dialogue choices. I wish he would say those dialogue choices.
Yeah, I get why he doesn't because obviously it's a technical thing of there's a lot of them they maybe didn't have time to record him saying all these things. But
Yeah,
it is annoying that he doesn't say them when the rest of the presentation
yeah,
around that kind of stuff is so high
yeah.
in this
It's
game.
it's just so weird. Like there's times where like Fragile will like ask him a question or whatever like that, and he'll just say fucking nothing.
Yeah. However, I will say that his performance in this game and it goes for everyone, right? Their performances I actually think are brilliant. His performance in this game has impressed me because they give him more range, but they've done it in a way where he's not a completely different character. So
Yeah,
like
like when he sing the "Singing in the Rain" song when they're
yeah,
trying to
that
like when
got
she's
me
trying
when
to sing it.
when I got to that last night, and then he just randomly starts doing it. I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah, like I'm still not a huge fan of Norman Reedus. Just I mean for performance issues and stuff, and the fact that he like skipped out on a photo op here at the Calgary Expo one year, like he just left. and they had to refund everybody.
Oh
So, I mean,
wow.
like, it's just little things like that where I'm not a
Yeah.
huge fan of him.
And
But
I've
there
only
are some,
seen. I was gonna say I've only seen a bit of Troy Baker so far, but
yeah, just the one scene, and he has a
yeah,
mask on. So, like,
yeah. But he, from what I've heard, a lot of people are talking about him as the strongest performance in this game. And if that's the case, I genuinely would be shocked because I think some of these performances are really good. Like,
yeah.
credit to the cast here. I think they've done a really good job.
And you got like, what is it, George Miller, the Mad Max director. He's like
Yes.
one of the central characters there. I ran into Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan, who worked together with
Nice.
all
Nice.
that stuff. I mean, you've run into Mike Flanagan.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and Kate
Yeah.
Siegel she works at the other facility there. She's
Oh,
got the
is
longer
that?
hair and the hat.
Oh, is that her? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Kate Siegel. Um, yeah, she plays Olivia Winterberry or something like that, or whatever, Witherly
Yeah.
or something
She's
like
at like
that.
the first facility before you open up that mine. I know. I
Yeah,
know what
and
you
when I
mean.
saw the one guy, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's Mike Flanagan," and then I'm like, "Sweet." I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't get, Raoul Coley, considering how
Yeah.
much of a fan that he's been.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see him turn up at one of the other facilities in the game somewhere.
Well, I've gone through, all of the celebrity stuff, and there's a lot of people I don't know. Like, there's one
Interesting.
guy who's, like, a producer of Stray, the co-director of Stray, the
That's
main director
cool.
of Stray.
But this is
Molly Quinn,
exactly.
from Castle is in it as well too.
But this is exactly what I love about these games, right? Because you don't know everybody. Like even the musician in this game is someone. They are actually a
Yeah, that's
celebrity.
it's Gen Hoshino.
Yeah.
He's an actor. Like he's known for the ending theme of Spy X versus Family or Spy
Yeah.
X Family.
So
Yeah,
yeah, I just genuinely when people say that this is a much better game in every single way, it's not hyperbolic. Like every
yeah,
single thing about this video game is either improved or additional to the first game,
yeah. I do
and it's
so wish you
great.
could build bridges wherever you want. You still have to build off those I think you still have to build off those little fragments.
So,
Do you?
kind of. So, the bridges you can build wherever you want, but you have to have a
Oh,
PCC.
okay.
Roads you have to build off of the fragments, but bridges themselves
Oh,
you can
okay.
as long
Because
as you've
I
got a
kept
PCC
seeing
you
like the
can
half little
build them.
bits and then nothing for me to contribute.
Yeah, so those are ones that players or people have already placed, and then you're building, part of them.
Okay.
But I do want to talk about because one thing we hadn't mentioned because it is brand new to this game and it does make a difference if you utilize it correctly, and that is the mines and the monorail system because that's a new way of getting
Yeah,
around the world. Obviously, I don't know if you've used the monorail much, Chef, but
just once, just for the mission.
so if you build it out correctly, this monorail goes around a significant chunk of the map. And there is actually one of the one of the preppers that you can visit, one of the individual people in a facility, is on a tiny little island that you can't get to unless you use the monorail in a very specific
Yeah,
way.
I saw the one island because like when you have to get to one base, instead of going all through the little areas, I just went around that area,
I did as
and
well.
there's a monorail that goes there, and there's that little island there that looks like a broken house or something's on it.
Yeah, so there is a way to get to that, and it involves using the monorail. But yeah, it's
Yeah, because I know you
it.
can jump. But I mean, how the fuck do you survive?
How do you survive that? Yeah, I've wondered that. Yeah.
I mean, unless you land in the water just below, but I mean, I don't know the timing of it because I saw the jump button and I'm like, I ain't fucking using that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
I
gonna
know.
break my legs.
I mean, but yeah, there's some fun stuff you can do in this game. For people that like photo mode, there's a really good photo mode here as well. Like
Yeah,
lots of filters, lots of different things. You can even put Doll Man in different poses.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, did you get to the fight um in like the area that has like a lot of fire?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, like that's like Kojima just going like, yeah, I'm gonna have my own Solid Snake kind of character, and you've seen
Oh,
him in the
blatantly.
trailers
Yeah, yeah.
where he
You
has
see him in the
a
trailer.
bandana
Mm-hmm.
around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that fight was interesting.
I am very interested in what that character's story is because it's, I won't say too much about it, but we've seen flashes of it so far, and I've sort of
Yeah,
tried to piece little things together, but yeah, it's weird, right? Because let's talk a little bit about the story actually, because I think we thought this is probably the one area
yeah,
of the game where we fall in slightly different places on. How do you feel about the story so far, Jeff?
yeah. So the story basically puts Sam back in a position where he needs to reconnect um, parts of the world. And we know we've done the United States. Now we move to Mexico. Now we're moving to Australia, and who knows, God else where we go. But basically, the motive is fine. I feel that, however, he's not really driven to complete that objective when all this side stuff is presented in front of him. It's like when Fallout 4 starts and you like lose your baby and then you go on this adventure to try and find your baby. You get so distracted that it
Yeah.
feels like it's almost like a secondary objective.
Because
And
there's
so
so
that's my
much.
issue.
I'd agree with that. I think that's a fair one because it falls into that typical video game problem where they're trying to give you a story that has urgency, but then they take the urgency away from it by giving you
Yeah.
so much other
It's like,
things you can
because
do.
right now, Sam is not like, hey, how do we do this? How do we get to this? Because this is the only reason I'm actually doing this. And it
Yeah.
just feels like he's way too relaxed in
Yeah.
terms of the urgency that needs to follow this
Yeah,
particular objective.
I kind of agree with that. Although, what I will say to counteract that a little bit, and I'll speak around it slightly because I want to avoid spoilers for people, but I don't think Sam is fully in on this mission. I think the reason that he's there is actually something a little bit deeper and a little bit. I think he has some mental things going on, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, he's still trying to discover more about like this particular objective and then like what it actually represents because there's a lot of neat conflicting things and stuff, especially when you talk to Dead Man and whatnot, and you
Yes.
find out more about certain things. So that part's interesting. I just wish that he had a bit more focus on the narrative of going like, okay, we can do this, but how does this help me with my objective?
Yeah.
Because this is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know
that's
what I
my only
will?
issue. And then like there's a lot
Hmm.
of like big like it takes hours to get to a point where you're like, okay, now we're diving back into this.
Yeah.
Like up until that happens, up until you fight or sorry, not fight, you meet up with the Troy Baker character,
Yes, the
there was
first
almost
time you see him.
nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there was almost nothing that tied those things together, and that's hours.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Because there's quite. So, without going into too many spoilers, the game starts with you basically going back to Sam's hideout. Because what we know at the start of the game is that it's set 11 months after the events of the first game, and Sam is effectively on the run with Lou, who is the BB that he saved at the end of the first game, and the UCA, which are the United Cities of America, have basically been hunting him ever since, right? And then after that opening sort of 20 minutes, depending on how much walking around you're doing, Fragile comes to Sam and asks him to help her and her new company, Drawbridge, in connecting Mexico first. You eventually then, through different circumstances and things, end up going to Australia. There is quite a lot of story in the initial in the initial sort of couple of hours, which I would call the tutorial section, because Mexico is essentially the tutorial section of the video game, I would say.
Yeah.
In that initial couple of hours, if you're playing it the way they intend you to, which is, I think they intend for you to basically mainline that whole section. You don't have to, but I think they
No, like
intend
there's
you.
one part I haven't cubited. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think they intend you to mainline the Mexico section, and if you do that, there is actually quite a lot of story in that first couple of hours. But the problem is, as Jeff kind of says, it's not until then a few hours after that where you start to understand how the early events of the game are connected to the wider narrative, and that then becomes your driving force. But so that is a bit of an issue. I have a bigger issue personally. I don't have as much of an issue with that because I feel like the pacing of the storytelling here is better than it was in the first game. I think in the first game it's very like, oh, Sam's out on his own. He has to go and deliver these. The president wants to see him. He has to now, cremate her body. And it's very like, you're talking about roughly like 10 hours of gameplay before you
Yeah.
even get to the actual narrative of the first game. Whereas with this, I think it does throw you into the narrative much more quickly. But the way that it connects the main driving force of the game with the early events of the game, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah. Like so far, the story just hasn't grabbed me
Yeah.
like at all because it's just kind of like we need to reconnect Australia and then
The,
this will help them.
do you
Blah blah
know
blah.
what's
I'm like,
funny? Because
okay,
I
but
kind of agree with that, but what has grabbed me about the story and the narrative is the characters you interact with and their
yeah,
stories.
characters are good. I just think the narrative string that
Yeah.
all of these characters are dangling on is very very weak
Yeah.
so far.
So Tarman, for example, I find interesting because there's clearly more to his story, right? There's clearly
Yeah.
like you eventually in the game you get the Moby Dick book, and slight spoiler, you open it up and there's a picture of him and his son, and you then get a cutscene which tells you a bit more about his story and why he is where he is. But I suspect there's going to be more to that story. I think there's going to be more about him. Rainey
Yeah.
is another very, very
Back
interesting character.
back with Tarman before we move on. I do kind of wish they didn't do that explainer with his arm until the photo
I
because it was
agree.
kind of like, yeah, blah blah blah. Oh, by the way, you might notice that I have this hand here. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, that felt random.
Yeah, it's almost like it was. It's almost like that scene is misplaced. It's almost like he should explain the hand thing at the
During
time
the
of
photo
the
thing.
photo thing. Like,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But yeah, back to Rainy.
Yeah, Rainey, to me so far, outside of a character that we don't actually know who he is yet, Rainey is the most interesting, right? So,
Yeah, she's the quiet of this particular story, where she's got this unique power that's kind of affected by like the environment,
and
essentially.
her power is very cool, but her
Yeah,
story around that power is so tragic, but it also makes sense within this universe. And I also think that, slight spoiler, Rainey is pregnant. This is something you learn very, very quickly. I think that her role in the story and in the narrative of the world might be much bigger than we think it is at this moment in time.
yeah,
Just because of the importance of babies in this world, and what we know
yeah.
about how they
Excuse me.
kind of is interesting, because we haven't actually, at the point where we are, we haven't met all of the crew yet, so we do know
No.
every single one of these people you see on the picture is in the game.
Yeah.
We know that from
Like
the
I've met
trailers.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
She's doing pretty good. She's Elle Fanning
Yeah.
and that's been pretty
We
good.
won't spoil how you meet her or anything because that is quite interesting. We've seen Troy Baker once at this point in the game. We haven't seen Hartman yet, who's there up above Jeff. But I
Like
but
the one thing that I want to say is like because we meet Charlie and Charlie's the benefactor. He's paying for all this shit. And he has
yes,
his own agenda. But you're able to essentially put a voice on Charlie. You can pick like what is it, Die
his
Hard
voice is
Man?
from the
Hey,
previous game, right? His voice is
yeah.
from the previous
And then
game.
when you try and pick Lochna, he's like, oh, she has too many personalities. I can't do this. Then why give me the option? Because I would have loved Lochna being the narrative for Charlie, and I ended up picking was it Die Hard Man.
I picked Die Hardman as well.
I don't even know if the other one goes like, oh, but by the way, yeah, we couldn't afford that actor, so we're just going to revert back to Die Hard. But
uh,
like Lochna would have been great because she was fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
He's not barking.
I did like that there was still a bit of Guillermo del Toro in this game, and I won't spoil what Obviously, he doesn't
Yeah,
portray the character. He doesn't actually do the performance, but the character is based upon him. And I'm glad that he shows up in the game because that's not something. I wasn't sure how much the kind of cast of the original were going to make an appearance here, and it was just nice to see him because for people who've played the first game, that was quite a cool moment and quite an important series of interactions that you have there. What I will say, and I want to ask you about this, Jeff, because we've obviously both played the first game. How do
yeah.
you think this game is for people that maybe haven't played the first game? Do you think it does a good job of explaining the universe and explaining
I mean,
various things?
an explainer at the beginning that's okay. It tells the surface level things that you kind of need, but I mean, you can go in and watch a YouTube video that's going to be far more comprehensive there.
Yeah.
I think the game on its own does a fairly okay job, but I don't think it touches upon the stuff that makes the emotional connections with Sam and Lou really pay off. I
Yes.
think it does an explainer of like kind of where the world is and how you're connecting it and the consequences and everything there. But in regards to the characters, I don't think it does a good job there. I think it
Okay.
really requires that you've played the first one to have that emotional connection because
Yeah.
like it doesn't really do a good job of explaining like how Fragile came into being
It
part
doesn't
of
explain why
Sam's
these
world.
characters are important to Sam, right? And your vessel
Yeah.
for the game is Sam. So if it doesn't explain that, then why would you care, right? And
Yeah.
I agree with that. There is one element of the game that I do actually really like that we haven't touched on, and I don't know if you've used it at all, Jeff, but they've got the corpus in the game now, which is essentially like active time lore in Final Fantasy 16, where if you're in a cutscene, for example, and they say something and you're not sure what it means, or maybe you've forgot what it means, or you haven't played for a while, you can essentially press a button and it will come up with like a glossary of terms that will either give you a write up on the term that you maybe have forgotten what it means, or there's even a section within there that says the story so far. And so if you haven't played for a few days, it will summarize for you what's happened in the story so far and where you are at that time. And it's
Yeah.
actually quite a useful feature. And I wish that, we've seen other games do it, but I'm glad that for a game that can be as confusing as Death Stranding in terms of all the different vocabulary they use, I am glad that they have this because I do think it
Yeah,
will
it does
help a
have the
lot of people.
codex that pops up. every single time they mention something. So when they say like Steel Mother, you can click the button there, and then it'll tell you
Yes.
essentially what that is. So
Yeah. So I think that's all good. But I personally am certainly a little bit more grabbed by the story so far than I think Jeff is. But other than that, look at Banter just chilling out there. But other than that, we have, I do think that my kind of initial impressions, and I say initial impressions, to be fair, I've actually played over 20 hours of this game already. I don't know how many hours Jeff has in, but I'm over 20 hours of the game. And I think this is a really easy one to recommend. Like, if you liked the first game, you're going to like this video game. If there were aspects of the first game you liked, but you had some problems with it, you're probably going to like this game. But if you hated the first game and you have no interest in the story, the gameplay loop and things like that, this game isn't really going to change that. Like, it adds more variety to gameplay. It adds more options to gameplay. But it is still Death Stranding in many ways, and therefore if your issue with the first game was something more fundamental about the gameplay loop and that not connecting with you, a bit of extra variety in things isn't going to fix that for you, right? Whereas if you're someone who somewhat enjoyed the gameplay loop but maybe got bored of it towards the middle of the game, I actually think you'll have a lot more fun here because there is more you can do and there's more. I've just come to a mission when I stopped playing last night where the mission was like, oh yeah, someone's been kidnapped and we need you to go and rescue them, basically. And it's like, well, that's
all
different.
bare bones when you when you do that, because when you pick them up, you have to drop everything.
Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. But that's what I mean. So there is some variety in terms of what you're doing, and there you may have seen a lot of comparisons for the stealth and action gameplay of like people saying it's very similar to Metal Gear Solid 5. And it doesn't quite get there. It doesn't quite get to that level of freedom, but it's definitely there. Like, if you're someone who enjoys combat, enjoys stealth, there is so much more of that you can do now. And actually, there's a lot more reason, I would say, to go into these enemy encampments. Because I don't know about Jeff, but I've been building quite a lot of stuff, whether that be roads or other things. And these camps, these enemy encampments, always seem to have hundreds of resources. like,
Oh yeah, there was one camp where it was a bunch of tents and a bunch of everything, and I killed everybody, and I hacked the little thing, and then right to the side of it is a road piece, and I just built that,
yeah,
like off the stuff that was in that camp.
that's crazy. But yeah, so I really, really like it. And you know what I will say? There was a lot of kind of making fun of Kojima when he initially said around the first Death Stranding that he was trying to create a new genre. But I think this game will make people understand that more. Because there isn't anything quite like this. There isn't anything that has this mix of elements in this way, and that is what like when I log in later on, and it tells me, oh, I've been given 4,000 likes because someone's been using my generator or the road that I built or whatever. There is nothing quite like that in in a video game. And we haven't even touched on some of the systems here. Like, there's a whole skill based system. Like, there's a perk system where you earn basically these points, and you can then allocate these points to different perks that help you to do different things.
Yeah,
There's
like one of them is like it puts like a little ball around you when you fall down, so your shit doesn't go everywhere.
Yeah. There's there's even on top of that, they almost have like the Skyrim Oblivion type skill based system where the more you do something, it improves that stat for Sam, right? So like if you are carrying on your back close to your weight limit or a heavy amount of weight for a considerable amount of time, Sam's carry load will increase over time, and you
Yeah,
can
that
increase
stuff's a
it.
little harder to kind of like piece together of what's happening because like the one thing, another major complaint I have, and this is probably an accessibility thing, is all the text that pops up when you're in a bright area, you can't read fucking any of it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I've noticed that a few times.
Like, and I mean, maybe there's an option to put like a background behind it or something like that because
I'm
like
not sure. I'll
I can't
definitely
read
look
any of
into
that
it.
shit.
I'll definitely look into it because that is important to note. Even if there isn't, that's definitely something.
Yeah, because I miss all of that shit
Yeah,
because like I'll be looking because you have to look at like the ground almost to like
yeah. To
have a
actually be able
background
to
for that
read
font.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like the more that you do things as well, you will just
Oh,
automatically upgrade stuff.
there's
Go
little
on.
tiny missions that people will put on saying like, I need a gun, and then you'll go and deliver a gun. How do you actually deliver the gun?
So you drop it on the floor, and then
Yeah,
you
in that circle.
press and then you press square, and it will send it through the tar to them.
Okay, I didn't know the press square thing, whatever, because I left a gun there and I'm like, it's not fucking doing anything.
Yeah, so there is a pop up that tells you it, but it comes up so
Okay.
quick that I couldn't even figure it out first of all. But yeah, as long as you put it in the circle, and then I think you basically go up to it, and it should say something
That's
along the
it.
lines of send cargo with a little square symbol next to it. You just press square, and basically a little ghostly aberration man comes up out of the tar, takes your stuff, and
Okay.
takes it to the other player. And it is apparently as well. I've seen a couple of videos. It's basically instant. Like people have been there where they've asked someone to send it, and the person's done it, and then literally 10 seconds later it shows up in their game. So it's really quick, which is cool, and I do like.
Yeah,
There's
I hope there's a vehicle attachment for collecting the gold currency
what
that's on the
that would
ground,
be cool. I'd like to see that as well because
or even just running over it
I
and you collect
drive
it.
past so much of that stuff, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could pick all this up. I saw a gold creature the last night. It was like a little gold blob, and if you
Oh, have
kill,
you fought that? Keep going.
I was gonna say, and if you kill these little gold blobs, they drop like 20 of the gold things that you can pick up.
Oh, nice. Have you fought that BT that's almost like a lion?
No, I haven't. I haven't fought that one.
Yeah, yeah, it's trying to remember where exactly it was, but no, that yeah, like it the whole area poisoned. I think it's at the area where you go um towards the animal shelter. There's that
Okay.
kind of like grayish area that
Ah,
leads
yeah.
into the forest area. That
Mhm.
grayish area, I think, had a BT there, and I got dragged by one, and then when
Oh
I got
wow.
back up, there was this big
Oh
like
wow.
tar line.
I'll have to have a look for that. That'd be interesting to see. But
And
yeah,
like we both fought the first boss,
we
which
did.
is like a big
Yes.
mechanical thing, and
Yeah.
that
So
fight was actually not too bad.
and that's one thing I was gonna say. I like that there is a. I won't go into it too much, but as you can see if you look at this image quite carefully, there is a variety. There's a wider variety of enemy types this time around. You're not just facing humans and BTs. You will face mechanical beings of some nature, and that first boss fight you have, or well, it's the second boss fight in the game, but the first boss fight you have against like a mechanical creature, that was actually really cool. I enjoyed that fight. That
It
was
kind of
good.
reminded me almost like of Metal Gear fights and stuff like that, just
Yeah.
because like the mechanical nature of it.
Yes. Yeah, and I liked how it would show damage, like as you would damage the different points. you could like damage the limbs of the thing. That was cool. I did like that. But I'll definitely be playing more of it once I eventually finish the story and everything. We will write up a full review. I'm sure that Jeff will probably have a little second take in there as well, given that we're both playing it. But so far, I would say based on initial impressions, personally, I would be happy to give this a recommend already, even though I can't give it a finalized score right now. I'm more than happy to say I definitely recommend that if you're a fan of the first game, definitely play this one. That's as far as I would go. Jeff, as we close out here, have you got any final thoughts on the game that you'd like to share?
No, I mean it's the Decima engine's absolutely fantastic for this. Like they did such a good job with kind of the environments and stuff look really really good. I'm do hoping that the next couple chapters kind of like build on a little bit more of with the story and stuff because that's my only complaint right now is the story
I,
feels very drip fed.
to be fair, what I will say is based on where we got to story wise last night, I think that's coming. I think we're reaching that point where clearly things are going to become more interesting, I would
Yeah,
expect.
there is a couple missions that are, a couple little things that are kind of weird. Is like you'll go and do a mission and you'll go all the way over there and like okay, yeah, now take it all the way back, and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
fucking god. And then there's parts where it's like, hey, go to this area for like a mission briefing. Well, why can't you just give me the mission briefing here?
Yeah. Yeah, so that I found slightly weird. I have found that slightly weird. I will say, in terms of the going somewhere and then going all the way back, that still happens, but it does seem to happen much less than the first game. So I'm
Yeah.
happy about that.
Well, because you like you get a ability to fast travel, and I kind of wish that you could just summon that where you are,
Yeah.
considering that sometimes it is there.
Yeah.
But you have to like go all the way over there and then fast travel and stuff.
Yeah.
Unless there is another way, I have no idea.
I don't. I'm not sure. I think you can. It did say something about you can go into the map screen and do it, but I've never done it from the map screen, so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, if you've been playing Death Stranding 2 on the beach, please let us know what you're thinking below. We would love to hear. And like I say, we will have a review for it coming whenever I finally finish the story of the game, because we have no idea how long this game actually is. And it is one that I'm sort of semi taking my time with. I'm not doing everything, but I'm trying to see as much as possible so that I can give a really in-depth opinion on the game, because as Jeff knows, the first game was one of my favorite games of the last decade. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the game justice, and that I'm giving you as much as I can when I do write that final review. So I'm sure that we'll speak about it more here on the podcast. So if you've enjoyed this discussion, please consider liking, subscribing, checking us out on analogstickgaming.com. And yes, I think that'll be it. But Jeff, just before we go, do you have any content or anything that you'd like to plug that's coming up either later this week or anything like that?
Um, I don't think I'm playing anything right now other than Death Stranding. I don't think I've got any active codes going out. We just put out the review for Lost at Random, The Eternal Die. This is basically a spin-off of Lost at Random that plays very much like Hades. So that review is out. That was available on Game Pass. So I just played that, beat it, and then tossed out a review for that. I am
I'll make
working
sure
still
to
on a
put a
review
link in the
for.
description for that one.
I am still working on a review for Mario Kart World. I'm just starting to write that one. I'm still trying to get a review out for Elden Ring Night Rain, but I still need to beat a couple more bosses. Um, because so far I haven't been able to beat that damn moth.
Oh God.
So that hasn't happened yet. But I'm looking to get a review out for that. And no, other than that, just been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals as well. Just because they dropped in a bunch of new skins and new kind of stuff, and a whole bunch of stuff's
Nice.
coming. I've got a couple friends at work going in on that, so that's been
Nice.
pretty much it. But yeah, other than that, that's been kind of what I've been doing. And then obviously I've got a game probably hitting in the next week here for playing for review. So that'll be announced at the
Nice.
time that we can announce it.
Yes, make sure that you keep an eye out for whatever that might be. Like I said, follow the website, follow us on Blue Sky, which we use now. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We will speak to you soon. You will get this episode either today or tomorrow, and then there will be the Nintendo episode that I was talking about, the Nintendo Switch 2 focused episode with our buddy MBZ will come out later in the week. So I'll kind of reshuffle, because that was going to be the previous episode, but I'll
Oh, are we
reshuffle
gonna renumber
those.
them?
Yeah. Yeah, gonna renumber those, so we'll reorder them, so you'll see this one first. Then we'll do
Is the
the.
banner on the last one though say 58?
It's fine. Just ignore that. Just ignore that if you see it. But what I will say is, if you're a fan of Balatro, make sure you tune into that next episode as well, because we have quite a discussion about Balatro in that one, because our buddy MBZ works for PlayStack, who is the publisher of Balatro, and they just recently revealed Mortal Shell 2 as well, obviously
Punchy game.
at the Summer Games Fest. So we talk a little bit about that as well with our good friend MBZ. So make
We'll
sure
be
you're
covering that
subscribed.
game when it's available.
We will do, yeah. Make sure you're subscribed for all of that stuff. Once I get Death Stranding 2 beat, I will then I'm thinking about potentially returning to Expedition 33 should time allow, and I may even stream a bit more of that, so make sure you're keeping an eye out on the channel for that as well. But we've always got things going on. If you want to speak to us, like I said, social media is the best place, Blue Sky particularly. Send us your comments down below if you've been playing Death Stranding 2. What do you think so far? What do you like? What don't you like? Are there any cool upgrades you found to gear? Because, I think that's always helpful to let people know, because not everybody is going to max out every connection. So if you found something that's really cool at one specific place, let us know down below. And thank you for joining us. We will see you next time, but I'm going off to deliver some more post.
It